We are about ready to begin our regular public monthly meeting. The board has just met in private session. So the regular public monthly meeting will begin at approximately 7:04 p.m. here at the Harris Conference Room, and is also via live stream. The Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education regular public monthly meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4-6, which is also known as Sunshine Law. Notices have been sent to the Progress, Caldwell, New Jersey, the Star Ledger, Newark, New Jersey, tap into, as well as at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Notices have also been posted at the Board of Education Business Office here at the Jefferson School building on Gray Street in West Caldwell, and have been delivered to both clerks of the Borough of Caldwell and the Township of West Caldwell for posting. Brian, can I ask you to take the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Diambola.
Here.
Mr. Elko.
Here.
Ms. Getty.
Here.
Ms. Grasso.
Here.
Mr. Cipoletti.
Here.
All right, 5 members present.
Would you please
No
stand for the
absences.
Pledge of Allegiance?
Quorum.
Sorry, Brian.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brian, do you have any communications?
I do not.
Okay. Dr. Conklin, Superintendents Report?
Yes, we actually have a presentation from the auditor to discuss the findings.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Brian, did you give, hi. Did you give the board a copy of what I was going to?
Everyone has a copy of the
Okay.
AFR and AMR, yes.
Okay. Anybody have this little report that I prepared? It's my little dissertation of financial highlights.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for appointing our firm as your auditor, and thank you for having me here for a few minutes to talk to you about the financial highlights. Again, another crazy year, but a good year. So throughout the pandemic, schools have faced all kinds of challenges, and at the end of the day, our firm audits 80-something school districts, and all of them ended up with unexpended appropriations, which is where Caldwell ended up as well. So the first thing I'll talk about is the fund balances of the district. At June 30th of 21, they were up $4.2 million. You can see that money was deposited into the capital and maintenance reserves. The current year excess was up, and Brian and I had a conversation about that, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as I go through. The prior year excess was $594,000, and that was up from the year before. And then during the fiscal year, the district was required to implement GASB 84, took the fiduciary funds that were reported in the back of the CAFR. It was payroll, agency, unemployment, student activity funds, and scholarship funds. Used to be reported as fiduciary funds. Scholarship funds and student activity funds were incorporated into the special revenue fund during the year, and the unemployment and payroll deductions payable were included in the general fund. So you'll see June of 21, the unemployment balance was 164. We restated the June 30th, 20th because everything has to be comparative, and so you see that change as well. And then the encumbrances are the open purchase orders that the district has at the end of the year on June 30th. They didn't vary by much. And then the unassigned fund balance is up from 1,192 up to $2.4 million. And that's because the NJDOE passed a law to say that school districts may, the wording of the law was that they may leave 4% up to 4% in unassigned fund balance. But when the DOE directives came out and sample excess surplus calculation came out, it forced the 4%. And so what that did in the mechanics, the math of the calculation was districts could put money into capital reserve, but the offset would be it would limit the amount you had as excess. So in your district, you had the excess and the resolutions that the board passed in June to deposit into the reserves were not astronomical. It was $1 million into the capital reserve and $500,000 into maintenance. And I'm thinking that when you come to June of '22, that you're probably gonna wanna increase those. And Brian and I can certainly have those conversations as finances, flush out in the next couple of months. So.
You're suggesting to increase those to decrease the unassigned?
I beg your pardon?
Is your suggestion to increase the maintenance and capital reserves to decrease the unassigned?
At some point, because this increase, very good question, thank you, is that it's up to
Every now and
4%
then.
for June of '21 and June of '22, but then we're expecting that it's gonna go back to 2% in June of '23. So you're gonna have to be monitoring and watching what's happening and make sure that those monies are put into capital reserves or utilized in
Understood. Okay.
special ways that will be consistent and conservative for the district. So that was a very, very good question. What I'm saying is the resolutions that the board passed to put deposits into those accounts at the end of June were $1 million for capital reserve and $500,000 for maintenance. And I think those numbers might be bigger next year, that you might want to, we always say overestimate them, so you have the leverage of putting them in capital reserve or figuring out if you needed it for budget purposes. And then in the middle of the front page, it just shows how you generated that money. It's very important to understand that as you're appropriating money for the budgets, and in Caldwell it's only $300,000, what's bringing that money back into the fold. And so it's typically from unexpended budget appropriations. And so I show you that when we have certain transactions we have to record in the CAFR, and so those are the first numbers for revenue and expenses, and then I make adjustments for TPA FICA because they're reported as an unbudgeted revenue and an unbudgeted expense. So I adjust those numbers for you. So the excess state aid is really the extraordinary aid that you didn't budget, and that is in your unassigned fund balance up above. And the district didn't spend about $4 million of the budget in '21, and that was up about $1 million from the year before. And so again, things changed throughout, and that's just how things ended up. And then at the bottom of the front page, I just show you, we like to see some continuity in terms of how much excess surplus or how much surplus is being used in each budget. So in '21, $300,000 was used. In '21-22, the year you're in, it's $594,000 was used to offset the budget. And in '22-23, it's $1.7 million. So down below I say, the district was typically using $300,000, so anything over $300,000 of that $1.7 million should be used for one-time expenditures. You can deposit to the reserves when you do that, because these results resulted from the pandemic, and I don't think they're going to be long-lived. And then again, I say that $609,000 is in the unassigned, and the board has at its discretion to appropriate that anytime during '21-22 for any purpose. And then I did already talk about the fact that the board authorized the resolution in June to deposit to the reserves. So at the end of the year, the capital reserve account was $4.7 million, maintenance reserve was $1.7. In the capital projects fund, that's different projects that you've authorized. Typically, it's a referendum. In your case, you have an ESIP project that's winding down. It was a 2018 project, and it has $293,000 left in it at June of '21. Debt service fund had a deficit of $100,000, and I think that was just a mistake that was made when the budget appropriations were put in. So it'll be resolved, and it will be raised in the '23 budget, and it'll go back to zero. Food service operations have been very different over the last 2 years of the pandemic. And so you see the revenue comparatively speaking. The year 20 was only affected for several months. 21 was affected for the whole year. You're under the summer seamless option program, so the operating revenue was essentially non-existent. Federal subsidies kicked in and they were up $231,000, and the operating expenses were down $166,000. So the overall net change in financial position was $26,000. And then the components of that, a piece of it is capital assets, and the other part is operating net position. And for the district, that was $165,000. So that's the operating reserve that you have to operate food service. The other note that I wanted to say with that is because the expenses are down, the calculation to determine if you're above or below the 3-month average that the federal USDA sets as the limit for how much you can have in that position. You'd be over that because your expenses are down, but they will eventually get back to normal, and then that 3 months average will be reevaluated. So we haven't written any of our clients up for exceeding that maximum because we're in a very crazy different situation. Continuing ed program, the operating revenue was down $198,000, the expenses were down $61,000. So the change in unrestricted net position was a minus 118, left you with 340,000 of net position, operating net position at the end of 21. So that's all very good. There's nothing that's problematic there. And then the last piece of financial information, I always show the board what the long-term liabilities of the district are. You have serial bonds outstanding for some of your capital projects. There's some premiums associated with those bonds, and they retire at the same pace. The premiums will be exhausted when the bonds are exhausted. And then the net pension liability. So it's the 7th year for recording the PERS pension. And the reason why this audit is delayed is because you do have some employees or some retired people who are in the Essex County pension system. And so week after week, month after month, we're looking for that information, and we had said to Brian, we're just gonna wait until we get that before we file the audit. And so with those pension obligations, they seem to be decreasing year after year after year. And sooner or later, you will have no one left in the Essex County pension system, but I don't know how many years that will be. And then the compensated absences are the unused sick and vacation of the employees. You know, you have people leaving, you have people who, you know, earn extra days each year. Looks very copacetic. And we had one audit recommendation, and it's somewhat repeat. It has to do with student activity funds. We do not select a lot of transactions. So if we find a payment where an invoice wasn't obtained, but sometimes you're doing things in student activities where kids are going on a trip. I don't know that that happened in the last 2 years in the pandemic situation, but a lot of times you don't get an invoice. We're not really looking for an invoice per se, but there should be something. I told Brian, even if there's communication between the advisor, just to have something that you can attach to the purchase order to say, you know, this happened, and then the advisor or someone has to sign off to say, yep, this happened and this payment is warranted. So I don't think it's a big deal, but it's procedure. And then our firm always makes a few management suggestions. We're just reminding the board that GASB 87 has to do with leases, will be effective in this current fiscal year. We're not really sure what the effects are going to be yet, but we have been educating ourselves, and we will disseminate that information to our clients. We put a little warning in there about the COVID-19 federal funding and all the grants that we've seen, that they can be particular about how things are done, and so we're looking out for you, and I know Brian's attending seminars too, to make sure that you dot every I and cross every T, so that the funds that you expend there will be, you know, if they were audited, that they would be found to be acceptable. And then the last comment, you know, got 7 partners that decide what management suggestions are going to go in here. We had some municipal clients who were paying sick and vacation leave that wasn't in accordance with law. So in terms, I don't know that that would happen in a school district, but we say it's not a bad thing to reach out to your labor attorney and make sure that the policies and procedures that you have for paying out sick and vacation to employees is consistent with the recent law. And that's it. So if anybody has a question, I'd be happy to answer it.
What grade would you give the district for their audit?
A+.
A plus?
Yeah,
Wow.
A+. Do a really good job here.
Okay, great, thank you.
Such a pleasure.
I guess we have no other questions after that.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We're gonna provide an update on the strategic planning goals. If we could just lower the thing, maybe if you guys could turn around, move around to the front, that'd be helpful. So the microphones don't go back.
I know.
They only go to YouTube, so I'll try to talk as loud as I can.
Okay.
I promise I'll speak loud. We could adjust these.
It's the third time I've asked for a speaker. We give up our time. We want to be here.
So we ordered microphones. They just haven't come in yet. I promise. So I'll is this loud enough?
There's some space up here if you move some chairs closer. I can hear just fine here, so maybe if you want to go some chairs.
At the start of the school year, I shared an overview of the district's strategic planning process that resulted in a 5-year strategic plan that's posted on the district's website. Members of the Board of Education, the administrative team, the teaching team, several parents and community members participated in several strategic planning sessions throughout the last half of the 2021 school year and through the summer. The committee members reviewed multiple data sources, including student achievement results, student, family, staff surveys, and technology needs assessments. Though we have continued to face the challenge presented by the pandemic, and while we have 4.5 years remaining to achieve our goals, our team would like to share early indicators of our progress. There are 5 core goals within the strategic plan. Tonight we will present progress towards 4 of these core goals. At our next public session, principals will join us to share progress towards the K-12 teaching and learning goals. Ms. Madera, our Director of Special Services, will present on behalf of the Student Wellness Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Conklin, and good evening to the members of the board and everyone here tonight. I am pleased to report out on the district's strategic goal around student wellness. Our goal this school year is that by June 2022, the number of secondary students who agree or strongly agree with survey statements related to social, emotional, and physical health will increase by 10%. It's important to note that this goal is being addressed separately at the middle and high school levels to specifically target the needs of students grades 6 through 8 and 9 through 12. A priority for this goal is to establish structures to further support students and to continue to communicate progress to families. At both the middle school and high school, school counselors have worked collaboratively with administration to develop surveys and administer them to students. The information gathered was used at the respective schools to inform decisions related to best supporting student wellness. Actions taken by staff at Grover Cleveland Middle School, as outlined on the slide, have included creating and administering student surveys aligned to our district values, forming a wellness committee in response to the survey results, arranging for the school counselor to meet with each student at least twice this school year. Counselors will also meet with some students individually as needed to address the root causes of homework challenges and to provide strategies to support them. There is also continued communication with families via the principal's weekly update, quarterly newsletters, social media, and guidance notes. Actions taken by staff at James Caldwell High School have included creating and administering student surveys aligned to district values, arranging for school counselors to meet with students at least once this school year, providing a common lunch designed for students to have access to their counselors for support. And again, there's a focus on continued communication with families. Some examples of this include the school counseling website, the principal's weekly update, and information shared via SMORE, an interactive newsletter or flyer from the Student Assistance Coordinator. In addition, on February 7th, a survey was sent to parents and guardians of students at the high school level. Responses were expected to be received by the district by today. The responses and feedback will be reviewed this month and will be used to inform actions related to student wellness moving forward. With that, I would like to turn it back over to Dr. Conklin, who will share out on the district's family engagement goal.
Thank you, Ms. Madera. Family engagement goal was by June 2022, engagement for all families, including non-English speaking families, will improve as evidenced by increased response to district surveys. After reviewing the surveys and feedback from parents, the district is working to provide more consistent messaging in our language and content, along with our format and sources of that information via our website, social media postings, direct mailers, and emails. In addition, parents need to know who can best respond to their questions. With that in mind, the district continues to establish clear communication flow between families and school personnel. Oftentimes, families receive multiple messages and are inundated with many emails and/or school correspondence from both the school and the district. We continue to streamline how the schools and district shares important messages and essential correspondences. Teachers, principals, directors, and the assistant superintendent and the superintendent are all sharing a role in helping to update the messaging process. The district continues to use the translation services provided by Google Translate and has adopted the translation service provided by Lexikey to ensure equitable access to all school messages and to expand it in other services. For example, we're using Lexikey for virtual services to help translate for families whose primary language is not English and for our kindergarten registration. The district continues to ask families to participate in and respond to all of our ongoing surveys, which will help the district to make data-driven and informed decisions about improving family engagement. I'd like to turn this over to Ms. Elizabeth Fisher, who will discuss community, equity, and inclusion.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking as the Director of Secondary Education, but also as the Affirmative Action Officer for the district and focusing on our goal around community equity and inclusion. The goal is by June of 2022, 100% of our staff will participate in ongoing professional development regarding inclusive and equitable learning environments. This year we have adopted monthly spotlights that allow us to enhance and support our curriculum by celebrating achievements and cultures of the people that may have been underrepresented in our curriculum. This month is February, Black History Month. Next month is March, Women's History Month, and we provide resources for teachers K-12 to incorporate that into their curriculums. We've also been offering teacher professional development. The elementary schools received PD around co-teaching. The middle school received professional learning around differentiated instruction, and the high school received professional learning around co-teaching on Thursday. As well as we've implemented the Community Connections workshop series. We had our first workshop last week focusing on anxiety, and it was very well attended. And we will have another session this week which kicks off our partnership with the New Jersey Council of Inclusive Education. The first session is February 17th and will be titled Inclusive Mindsets. That partnership is really to help us work with our families around this idea of inclusion as well, to partner with what our teachers are also learning and implementing inside the classroom. And I'm excited to turn it over to my colleague, Lushan Michu, to focus on technology.
Good evening. To better support the integration of technology into the curriculum, the district has embarked on an ambitious plan to provide each student in grades K to 12 with a device to use in the classroom. The goal of this program is to promote higher student engagement and improve their digital learning skills. The successful completion of the plan involved two main phases. In the first phase of the implementation, Dell Latitude laptops have been distributed to all high school students, and Acer Chromebooks with improved memory and storage space have been distributed to all middle school students. These are individually assigned devices which the students can use both in school and at home, providing them with a flexible learning environment. They are fully compliant with all online testing platforms and are loaded with the software and applications that students need. For the second phase of the one-to-one implementation at the elementary schools, we assessed the current inventory of Chromebooks and iPads in those buildings and strategically allocated devices across the district to assure that all students in the K-5 level have access to technology. In all 1 to 5 classrooms, there are carts of Chromebooks available to students, while the kindergarten rooms have dedicated sets of iPads. In all rooms, the number of devices exceed the number of students. The district is also in the process of replacing older devices, which, although functional, may not support some of the newer technologies used in the classroom today. To this end, we are looking to purchase 400 new iPads, thus ensuring that all of our students across the district have dedicated devices that are no older than 3 years. The last piece in the completion of the one-to-one plan was the implementation of an additional security component that extends the existing district cybersecurity umbrella beyond the boundaries of our network, protecting students who use their devices at home and keeping the district SIPA compliant. This cloud-managed solution supports all operation systems and provides a modern approach to content filtering. It delivers increased insights into our students' web activity and provides an additional layer of security for our one-to-one deployment. In conclusion, I'd like to say that we as a district are proud of the successful implementation of the one-to-one initiative, which was accomplished in less than 6 months. It's been a collaborative effort, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who made this possible, the district leadership, the school principals, and also my tech team, Kevin and Corey, who are present here today. With this, I'd like to pass it on to my colleague, who will talk about the integration of technology into the curriculum.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. My name is Alina Jacobs. I'm the Director of Elementary Education. And I'll be talking about the ways at the elementary level that we are integrating technology meaningfully into our instruction, which is really the goal after we've gone one-to-one. Would you mind putting this slide just before there? Perfect, thank you. So, one way we're integrating technology is during the IDEA block. IDEA stands for Individualized Differentiated Educational Activities. And it's a time in the teacher's schedules to provide intentional intervention and enrichment to students. Cindy Halen, our elementary technology integrator and coach, has been working with teachers at all 4 elementary schools to leverage technology to provide students with choice and independence during the IDEA time. Cindy and the teachers have worked together to create learning menus in Seesaw, where students can access a variety of digital tools that are selected in order to support or challenge individual students. For example, students have access to online enrichment boards, math games, district digital subscriptions, and work within the G Suite platform. Students love the ability to take charge of their learning within a carefully designed and controlled choice process. I'll pass it over to Elizabeth, who will talk about the high school.
In addition to a lot of the technology enhancements that we utilize during remote instruction, some of the ones that we've really integrated this year to meaningfully integrate technology and differentiate is the usage of Newsela at the middle school level. It allows you to select reading levels that are appropriate for each student and scales the text and the task to make them appropriately challenging for everybody, and allows us to integrate a lot of different types of literature and types of text so we can focus in on that disciplinary literacy that's so important for our students to work on. We also utilize Nearpod, grades 6 through 12, which allows teachers to engage students and have them show what they know in a lot of different ways and get immediate feedback from their students and their understanding, and well as EdgeElastic, which is a new platform for us to utilize in alignment with our assessment goal as well. Teachers can either develop or select different types of assessments. They can use formatively or summatively and get real-time data from their students to help them inform instruction.
And I am here just to invite everybody. It's funny having my back to the people I'm inviting, but to those of you who are at home and to those who came out tonight, Valentine's Day no less, and the day after the Super Bowl, thank you for being here and thank you for presenting. It's not the only opportunity to hear us talk about curriculum and instruction goals and our progress towards those goals. Next board meeting, March 7th, if you could go back just one slide. Our principals will be joining us to present updates about our teaching and learning goals. And then on March 28th, we're going to have an additional forum for anybody who has any questions. You can advance to the next slide. Any questions around curriculum instruction for anybody on the administrative team. And if you have questions in advance you'd like us to prepare responses for you, feel free to shoot me an email, Caitlin Jones, your assistant superintendent, and I have my email address up there for you. So thank you to the board for letting us present these early indicators of our progress, and we'll have more to come next board meeting. Thank you.
Ask the board to go back, and if anyone has any questions, you just come up to the microphone and we'll see if we can answer some of the questions you have. Does anybody have any questions for anything about the presentation? So again, March 7th, we will be presenting the student learning and achievement goals, and the principals will hear each school will present specifically about their school. So if you have questions, please feel free to attend that day. That concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Conklin. And I highly encourage everybody to come out next week to see the progress against the goals. As we have been, there's a lot of work going into setting those goals, and it'd be great to just see the interim process and a lot of the great work and achievements that have been there so far. And definitely to attend the open conference session on the 28th, so that you can ask whatever questions need to be asked related to curriculum. Because I know there have been a lot of questions, and the experts will be there to answer those questions.
I just ask if everyone could please email their questions ahead of time. We'd like to have responses for those questions.
Great.
So that'd be really helpful if we had the questions beforehand.
Good, okay. And from a president's report, the only thing I have to say is Happy Valentine's Day. All right, we're going to go into the approval of the minutes. Can I have a vote for the approval of the reorganization meeting minutes and executive session meeting minutes from January 10th, 2022, and the regular public monthly meeting minutes and executive session minutes of January 18th of 2022?
I'll make the motion.
Great. A second?
I'll second.
Awesome. Brian, can I ask you to take a vote, please?
Yes. Mr. D'Ambola?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Cipollette?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Great, we're now going to public comments on agenda items, and please, for now, just keep it to agenda items only. Public participation shall be governed by the following. I cannot speak tonight. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface comments by an announcement of their name and address. Statements are to be limited to 3 minutes. Okay, we're just trying to ensure that we stay to those guidelines. We will start to have a clock, quite honestly, which will be put off to the side so that we can try to encourage everybody to stay as close to 3 minutes as possible. But 3 minutes for duration, and you may only address items again on the agenda at this time. Participants may speak no more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. And one thing I'd like to add, please be very polite and respectful if you do have questions or comments. I would greatly appreciate that. Anybody have any questions or comments on the agenda? Please.
Good evening, Mary Ellen Meehan for Hawthorne Road, Caldwell. I'd like to talk about page 4 and 5 of the agenda, the retirements and resignations page. Saddest page of all the agendas, and they keep getting longer and longer, and my question and or comment and or pleading is what's the plan? It's not going to be our normal year for replacing teachers this year. These are very serious. This is grave in my mind. They just keep coming, and I'm very concerned. I'm concerned about class size for next year because our staff pool is shrinking and our town is growing, and I'd like to know, are we forming committees? Are we reaching out to different resources? I mean, we have to start now to look, because we're going to be very light in the staffing, and I'm extraordinarily concerned, and I know a lot of people are. So we would be a little bit comforted if we were told that there is a new emergency plan in place to be replacing these unbelievable, wonderful, tenured, experienced educators, which we are all happy for their service and grateful, but are deeply saddened to see so many of them leaving. Thank you.
I think that, if you don't mind, I think this is a sign of the times. I think this is where we are. Every article I receive from Education Week or Superintendents Weekly is we're losing staff. They're retiring, they're resigning, they're choosing alternative careers. It's definitely something we're struggling with. We have reached out to all the local colleges to see who's graduating. We are participating in on-site job fairs in all the local colleges. So we do realize it's an emergency, and we're actively pursuing trying to recruit people. We are in the same situation as a lot of people. You saw that we hired a bunch of new people. Well, they came from someplace else, so they left where they were to come here. So I think we're seeing a lot of that all over the place. We hired several new special education teachers and a new PE teacher, and they all resigned from their previous school district, and they're coming to work for us. So as we lose people, other people take them, and vice versa. So I think it's just what's happening all across the United States, as a matter of fact, not just unique to New Jersey. So we recognize it, and we're doing our best to try to get ahead of it and recruit teachers right when they come out of the schools.
Great, I appreciate that, and I am encouraged at some of the appointments. My concern is a lot of the appointments and the resignations aren't matching up. I'm glad to hear that we're getting a lot of special ed teachers and newer staff are in, but I'm worried that they're not filling the slots that are being left.
Well, the ones that are retiring, they're here to June, so we don't start recruiting those until March and April, and then we get them on board for July. So we haven't got to that point yet where we're recruiting those.
Okay.
So Ms. Meehan, if you're saying that resignations should be a policy concern of the board, then I think that's a fair point.
Thank you.
Dr. Conklin, are resignations up over the last couple of years?
They're right around what they were a few years ago. I think we were at about 18 or 20. We looked back 7 years to see what the difference was, and they're a little bit higher, but they're not so tremendously higher. I think the pandemic had a big influence over the past few years, so it's really hard to judge what's a reasonable number.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Meehan. Any other questions or comments on the agenda? Thank you. If not, we are going to move into voting. Curriculum and technology.
Curriculum. The superintendent makes the following recommendations to the Board of Education. Motion to approve item numbers 1 through 11 on this evening's agenda under curriculum.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Brian, can I ask you, first off, any questions? Brian, can I ask you to take the vote?
Yes. Mr. Diambolo.
Yes.
Mr. Elko.
Yes.
Ms. Getty.
Yes.
Ms. Grasso.
Yes.
Mr. Cipollette.
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Great, thank you. Personnel, Ms. Getty?
Thank you. I make a motion this evening to approve certificated staff item letters A through K and non-certificated staff item letters A through D on this evening's agenda under personnel. And before we move on to a second, Mr. Cipoletti, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the teachers that are retiring at the end of this school year. I take a look at the number of years that they've all been with the districts. Teresa Bailey, 22 years. Doreen Golembeski, 30 years. Christina Dunn, 34 years. Tracy Tufano, 31 years. And Jeff Edwards, 42 years. That institutional knowledge that we're losing with those resignations is just incredible. At the same time, I wanted to just thank them on behalf of the district and on behalf of our students for their dedication and the time and effort they put in to educating our children. On a personal note, we're going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. So, but I do want you to enjoy your retirement. So thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Any comments or questions? Additional comments or questions?
No, just
Great.
we second Paula.
Yes, very well said, Paula. Brian, can I ask you to take the vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Grasso?
Yes, under all of the retirements with regret and the resignation of Tom Lamont with regret.
Mr. Cipoletti?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Great. Mr. Elko, can I ask you to do finance and facilities, please?
Sure. Motion to approve items number 1 through 15 on this evening's agenda under finance, and item number 1, but not item number 2, under facilities. And number 2, we're just taking another look at. You'll more than likely see something similar to that in the next meeting that we have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Great. I'm sorry, can I have a second?
Pardon?
Second, my only concern was whether we should amend the agenda to exclude.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yes, please.
So we could, is it a motion to remove item number 2 under facilities?
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Motion and, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Against? Okay, motion carried.
Shall I make a new motion, Brian?
Yes, please.
Okay. I move to approve items number 1 through 15 on this evening's agenda under finance, and item number 1 under facilities on the revised agenda.
I'll second it.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Brian, can I ask you to take a vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes to all, but I abstain as to item 1B.
Okay, noted. Ms. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Cipoletti?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Thank you. And policy, Ms. Grosso?
Sure, motion to approve item numbers 1 and 2 on this evening's agenda under policy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Brian, can you take a vote, please?
Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Cipoletti?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Thank you, Brian. And now we're going to move into public comments on anything outside the agenda. Again, participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and address. Statements are to be limited, again, to 3 minutes in duration. Participants may speak no more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard, and all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. Are there any other questions or comments? Please come up. Sure.
Hi, my name is Alexis Martin, 42 Johnson Avenue. My question is I don't know anything about board meetings. I don't know anything about how they're run. But the last 2 board meetings that I've been at, the audience has asked like so many questions about what's going on and how they're being helped, how the teachers are being helped. And I just wonder, are you guys supposed to answer those questions ever? Like, do you you didn't answer the day of, obviously, but, you know, it wasn't addressed tonight either. So like, when do we get an answer or some information that all these people had all these questions? And I probably won't get an answer, but thank you.
So generally, questions are not supposed to be answered or not answered directly at the meeting at that particular time, unless there's an answer which is readily available. Or if there are questions which are raised, an administrator typically should be getting back to people on those questions. Now, a lot of discussion that comes up may just be comments, quite honestly, and they're not really questions unless questions are woven in there. So quite honestly, it is helpful to everybody here if people come up with, my question is, so that's pretty direct. Did that help to answer your question?
And sometimes actions speak louder than words. So several weeks ago there was, there's been a lot of teacher concerns that have been raised, and that's important. After one meeting where there was a particularly high number of teacher concerns, shortly thereafter the board actually had a committee that met with the teachers, and that was what Ms. Callahan reported out on last meeting. So it's not always a straight line, you know, but if you watch the whole movie, sometimes you pick up on the fun little nuances there. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions or comments? Sue.
Sue Callahan, President of Caldwell-West Caldwell Education Association.
Mara Lobato, Vice President of the Caldwell-West Caldwell Education Association.
All right. First, want to wish everyone happy Valentine's Day. All right. And in the spirit of Valentine's Day, we're coming with a positive message. And our first positive message, it kind of addresses what you just asked. Last week, Kristen Kaufman stood up here and talked about the specialists and getting into the rooms. We want to thank the administration. All the specialists we understand are in their classrooms now, and that is going to have a ripple effect on the students who now can get out and enjoy those rooms, the specialist teachers who it makes their jobs easier, and then also the classroom teachers who can use the rooms now for prep. So we want to thank you. That is an answer to one of the questions. We've been coming, and yes, we've been raising our concerns, but we also been wearing these T-shirts that talk about how the teachers are the heart of the district, the heart of the schools. So we just thought, and it's not a question, we're here to kind of do some shout-outs or hearts out to teachers who have made a difference in the classroom. And we might go over 3 minutes, but we won't go over 6, okay?
Okay.
All positive. All positive. It's all positive here. First, I want to say on a daily basis, the teachers in this district go above and beyond. They provide not only instruction, but support, encouragement. They're this friendly smile that students see every day. And they often serve as role models. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today and highlighting what our teachers are doing are how they are role models. So we thought it would be nice on Valentine's Day to read, to kind of just shout out and go our hearts out to the following people.
So our first people are the district nurses, Leslie Moran, Lila Curzum, Marianne Rivera, Beth Dean, Danielle Giglioni, Junie Hennig, and Jill Muller across the district who have continued to go above and beyond before and throughout the pandemic.
Next, our elementary media specialists, Doreen Golembeski, Kate Berkman, Jem Emelo, and Christine Weiss, who have been a number of things besides media specialists throughout the past couple of years. But they've been working hard currently to work on the Read Across America program, which will be instituted, I think, in March. So shout out to them.
At Washington School, Anne-Marie Mullen helped organize a blanket drive for senior citizens. The staff purchased cozy blankets to brighten the day of a senior citizen. These blankets were given to the town's food pantry to be distributed to Caldwell-West Caldwell residents.
Also, should we hold our applause to the end?
No, everyone deserves applause.
Okay, whatever. Your decision. All right. Also at Washington School, Kristen Kaufman has been painting murals there and at Lincoln School, and she's engaged the 5th grade students to help her with those.
Sheila Zeman, along with parent volunteers, organized the cereal box drive and collected more than 700 boxes for local food pantries.
Similarly, Jeannie Gertie at Washington School organized a school-wide collection of $1 to donate to the pajama program and was able to raise $532.
At Wilson School, Scott Steepold and 5th grade students painted the windows at Wilson School to bring some cheer to the dreary winter days.
Also at Wilson School, Jesse Ploskow worked with students to create the snowflake garlands to decorate for the winter concert.
At Harrison School, we had Michelle Canella, Erin Matzik, Carolyn, I don't want to, thank you, Narapesha, and Jacqueline Valdez covered a cross-curricular unit on polar animals with the preschool students at Harrison School. The students learned about penguins, polar bears, and the Arctic. To celebrate this winter theme, the students read stories, built their own igloos, and designed crafts that are currently being displayed on the Harrison School bulletin boards.
Lincoln School, Abby Landau and Chris Dunn organized a school-wide food drive to support the Caldwell Food Pantry.
Jeff Steeple took fall family pictures and donated $400 to the Wilson School HSA and $500 to the Lincoln School HSA.
Chris Dunn has been selected as a recipient for the Teachers Who Rock Award program, which recognizes up to 24 outstanding teachers to receive this prestigious award for their important contribution to society.
At Jefferson School, teachers at Jefferson School have organized and overseen St. Rocco's Toy Drive, Backpacks for Life, and Jefferson Book Swap, for which families clean out their bookshelves in order to provide free books for our students.
And Jefferson School will also be collecting donations this spring for Dress for Success. So if people would like to contribute that, that's a local organization that helps economically disadvantaged women re-enter the workplace.
At GCMS, Debbie Santulli and Lori Chomko work closely with the Tom Coughlin J Fund to provide 35 families from St. Joe's and Newark Beth Israel Hospital with bags and boxes filled with gifts for the holiday season. The project was called Hope for the Holidays. With the help of the JCH girls basketball team, they were also able to contribute many blankets and pajamas to the hospitals as well.
At GCMS, Spanish classes put on puppet shows in the 6th grade to learn vocabulary. To help donate more food to the Caldwell Food Pantry, the school has participated in the Super Bowl food drive, and the Builders Club is hosting a game board hour with Project Unified tomorrow to get more students together and hanging out after school.
Our Young Writers Club at the middle school are also writing a positive message all over the windows of the classrooms to brighten up everyone's days. And on April 1st, 2022 is our Jim Brown Make a Difference Day.
Last but not least, the high school. Robin Kyle, Sheila Zeman, and Melissa Lanza-Fama, with the support of Amy Verselli and Kristen Kaufman, collaborated to bring a group of self-advocacy students to Washington School for some collaborative social and emotional learning. The high schoolers worked with 6 groups for 20 minutes outside. 1st grade classes learned how to tie their shoes. 3rd and 5th grade classes played Hungry Hippo. And each class was able to enjoy a change of pace, providing some outside time, and while building some very important skills.
Jackie Stafford has expanded her media specialist position to share her love and knowledge of knitting to clothing classes.
English teacher Jason Tonzik recently argued his dissertation and has just earned his doctoral certificate or degree at Montclair State University. So congratulations to Dr. Tonzik.
Jesse Riddell and the JCHS Student Council collected and distributed custom holiday gifts of clothing and educational toys to 40+ children of Harmony House Homeless Shelter in Newark.
I don't know if people are aware, but many of the clubs at the high school and at other schools across the district are have volunteer advisors. And so our hearts go out to all those teachers who would volunteer their time to allow students in these stipended clubs to explore their interests. One of these clubs is the Future Business Leaders of America, and that's run by volunteer advisors Calvin Harper and Cassie Hack. This organization, FBLA, helps prepare students for careers in business and has over 230,000 members nationwide. Calvin and Cassie mentor 6 officers and committee chairs while coaching all members who compete in events at the regional and state levels. They have been conducted several community service projects and will be attending the State Leadership Conference, where students will network with other New Jersey chapter members, engage in professional development workshops, and compete in business events. 70% of our regional competitors from Caldwell placed in their events this past fall, including a 1st and 3rd place team, and they will be moving on to the state level to compete at this conference. Other competitions that our students have competed in are the Consumer Bowl, sponsored by the NJ Division of Consumer Affairs, the NY Federal Reserve's High School Fed Challenge, and the FBLA Stock Market Game, where one of our teams came in 27th out of 713 teams. So, shout out to them. We thank you for letting us do our shout outs and our hearts out to these teachers. I know we've missed somebody and we apologize, but we just wanted to share the love today on Valentine's Day and be positive. And we first mostly want to thank all the CWCEA educators for being the hearts of the Caldwell-West Caldwell schools. Thank you.
When you first came up, I thought you were going to bring chocolates and cookies and all that kind of stuff. But quite honestly, that was much better. So thank you very much.
Yeah, can I just say something?
Yes, please.
I just want to say that I feel that Ms. Callahan and Mrs. Lobato left out 2 very important educators that I'd like to say, which is yourselves. And the fact that you come here every week and you represent your union and you speak, and it can be emotional and it can be difficult, and you have a lot of people to answer to and a big bridge to build. But you did it, you're brave and you're strong, and we appreciate you. And so I think our hearts go out to the both of you tonight too.
I echo everything that you've said, but I also want to add this. I think it's important that we know about all these things that are going on within the district. I mean, I just think it's wonderful. And unless you're in that particular school at any given time, you wouldn't know that. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for bringing the message tonight. Yeah. We really do appreciate it.
I don't know if anybody wants to follow that, but if anybody else wants to come up, feel free.
Will not be able to steal your thunder. Hey, my name is Nir Samuel. I live at 9 Van Ness Place. I just want to say I have one comment and one question. The first comment is I'm happy to hear that things are moving in a positive direction, at least as far as some of the plans that have been implemented to address some of the concerns of the teachers. So I want to thank everybody that's involved in that, the teachers, the administration, and the board. And the question that I have is, Mrs. Vetrano was the principal of Wilson Elementary. Her last day was February 11th. I understand that in the interim we have Mr. Lincoln, but I would like to know if there's an update as to where we are in the process to finding a permanent replacement. I think it's going to be very important for continuity, especially for the kids at that school.
So we're still screening possible candidates. We are going to have the interview process probably start at the end of March, early April, and then have someone on the board in May, so to start for June. So that way everything is decided prior to July. The interview committees will include parents, board members, district personnel, teachers, and then there'll be a few rounds of those interviews, and we'll go from there, and then the board will have someone presented to them in well enough time to make sure that we have someone in place for July 1st.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
So I just wanted to do one more shout out. Last week I had mentioned that our mock trial had moved on to the quarterfinals. They did very, very well, but unfortunately we did lose in that round. So I just wanted to say again to the kids that participated and to Evan McLaughlin, thank you. I know there was a lot of work that went into it, and we really appreciate it.
And Dan, I don't know if you want to mention about the basketball.
It's here.
Yes.
Do you want to go for it?
No, you do it.
No, you do it.
No, go ahead. Okay.
And to add one more, good luck and congratulations to our basketball team who will be playing tomorrow night in the semifinals of the county tournament. And then hopefully on Saturday, the finals. So congratulations to our team and coaches, etc. Great
History,
accomplishments.
right? I think it's the first time in history that the boys basketball has made it to the semifinals, and that'll be at Essex Community College at 5 p.m. tomorrow. If anyone wants to take a trip down to Newark and support them, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. But they're pretty fantastic to watch. I'm not like a huge basketball person, but I've been to like quite a few games, and they're pretty phenomenal. They work really as a team, and that's great. And to shout out to Sue, the cheerleaders are there. And I will tell you, like, I'm only used to cheerleaders on a football field, but I'm watching them, and first of all, I'm so petrified, Sue, that they're gonna fall. I'm like, they stunt amazing. But it's like, it's such a great, like, community spirit, like, school spirit thing. Like, you just can't help but, like, get into it. So I really encourage you, if you don't wanna go down to Newark, but go to their next game. Even the girls' varsity team is phenomenal this year. Go see them. They're pretty tremendous to watch, and so are the cheerleaders. So it's great.
Thank you. With that, I think we all want to go back home for Valentine's Day. So we're going to end this session, okay? All right, so we are currently going to move into executive session. The purpose of that meeting will be to discuss personnel, negotiations, legal, miscellaneous, and all business matters. That meeting has been advertised and is compliant with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4-6, which is also known as the Sunshine Law. The matters discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required, and formal action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a meeting to which the public has been invited. Do I have a motion to enter public executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Beautiful. Motion has been made by Ms. Getty, seconded by Ms. Grosso. Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Ed shall enter public session at approximately 8:05 p.m. Frank, take the vote.
All in favor, ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Against, nays? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.